Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Hope y'all doing okay. So, I want to tell you about the last out-of-state trip that I took with my dad. This would have been summer of 2016, shortly before he received his terminal cancer diagnosis. Our church was going to be going on a missions trip, and they mainly wanted the praise band to go. They wanted some other people to go down too, but mainly the praise band. We were going to be putting on music for a crusade down there. They wanted us to go. Okay, we made arrangements and figured it out, and it was going to be it was across multiple state lines. It was going to be a bit of a to-do, but doable. I couldn't get off work the night before we had to leave, so I unfortunately had to drive down separate from the rest of the crew. Dad went down the same day, but due to space constraints in the church van, he actually drove his own car, but just caravaned along with them. I get off work, get home about 6 in the morning, maybe 6:30. We're on the road heading out of state at 11 o'clock or so in the morning to get down there with a little bit of time to spare. Easy, Hoss. Okay, good. I was banking on sleeping most of the way down, letting my wife drive. The only child we had with us was my youngest, who was just about one and a half. She did excellent. We were in the car 6 hours. She didn't make a peep. Get her out, change her at a fuel or a restroom stop. She was fine the whole time. The only thing that happened that was unexpected is someone sent me an incorrect street name to wherever it was we were going. And a street name, you wouldn't think, would make a huge difference in location. It ended up putting me about 45 minutes to an hour away from where we were going, and I had about 45 minutes. I had an hour and 15-20 minutes to get from where I was misplaced at to where I had to go. So we were shaking a leg the last little hour trying to hurry up and get where we were going. And I had pulled it up on Google. Yeah, it's such and such a road. And it was like street or drive was the only difference. And end up getting where I'm supposed to be just fine. That was the only hold up. Got there on time enough, and everything kind of went off without a hitch as far as the crusade goes. Had a wonderful time down there with some good friends. It was the last out-of-state trip I ever took with my dad. It was my wife, my youngest daughter and I in our car, my mom and dad in his car, and then a group of I think there was a couple other people in personal vehicles, and then I think there would have been about 20 of us all told, plus musical equipment. So anyway, the funnier part about this ends up the last night we stayed overnight, so get down there, stay one night, and then we're leaving the next morning. Just the way that travel itinerary worked out for me, because I didn't get to go down the day early to set up. So we're staying a night in a hotel room, and the way they booked it 2 queen beds, and then we got a crib for my youngest that was with us. And we so my mom, my dad, my wife, and I all, and my youngest, all spent a night in the same hotel room. Dad just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Don't understand, but he thought it was cool. And everybody was complaining about everybody else snoring at some point. The next funny part about this story, is when we were coming home, we came a completely different way. We're taking back roads that are off the GPS recommended route, but it's shorter by miles, so I'm following whoever has driven this route more than I have. Go through this little tiny town, just a few red lights, and a county sheriff ends up getting in behind my dad, who's at the very back of the pack. Between him and, I think there's the bus, the guy that commutes down there all the time due to family, myself, and then my dad. And Dad's at the back of the pack. This county sheriff gets behind my dad and follows for about 20 minutes. Where it gets comical is at this point my dad hadn't had a moving violation in 30 years at this point. The last ticket that he got was a parking ticket. His meter expired, and I said, "You're so slow, that's the only way you can get a ticket," which he thought was comical. Cop gets in behind my dad and ends up following him for about 20 minutes, like I said. And where it gets funny is the cop's like hanging way back, and I'm watching this in my mirror, and it's just that we're on this dead straight, desolate country road. And this cop's, decent following distance, and then he will zip up and get right on my dad. And then he'll back off. And then he'll zip back up and get right on him and hold there for a minute or two, and then get off of him. And just kept doing this. And I'm like, there was a part of me that was very tempted to just floor it and take off to give the cop something to do. Because he was bored. And if he ran your plate while he was behind you, he realized you're a very boring man. And the likelihood of him getting any excitement out of you was slim to none. And he chuckled at that and said I was right. Another thing that was really interesting about that trip, it ended up not happening, but I had actually a friend of mine, a guy I used to go to church with, one of his hobbies is civil aviation. And he had posted on Facebook at one point, if anybody wants to fly anywhere, whether it's just a scenic flight or go somewhere and do a thing, as long as you pay for my fuel plus a little bit, just a couple bucks an hour, I'll fly you wherever you want to go. And I'd actually thought about doing that due to the timing of when I had to be down there. And like, I looked up airports that were close, and I'm like, well, if I could fly down, someone could come pick me up 15, 20 minutes away from where I got to be, and I could ride back. And I really did. The thing that stopped me is how much in fuel it would have cost me to borrow this guy in his aircraft and essentially charter my buddy to this place. I think it ended up, because I would have had to pay for a round trip for his plane and a round trip for my car, I think it ended up being somewhere around 30% to do it in my car, which was a V8 sports sedan that I had at the time. Got 22, 24 out on the interstate when you were being real nice to it. On my work commute that I have, I averaged about 20, 21. So, but yeah, that was, but I did the math on it, and I'm just like, man, I'd really save a lot of time, but man, I'd really spend a lot of money, but I'd save a lot of time, but I'd spend a lot of money. So, ended up not doing it, but just something interesting out of that trip that I thought about doing. So, just figured I'd share that story with you the last time I got to go out of state with my dad. Y'all, thanks for tuning in. Catch you later. Stay safe.